Good morning, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Lee, aka Rollin Thunder. In today's video, we're going to be talking about beginner motorcycles. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea, and let's get into the video. So, ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing? I hope you're doing well. You join me on a lovely sunny morning, so I figured I will tell you guys about what my experiences were like as a first-time rider, and where I see learner riders going from 2021 and beyond. Depending on where you are in the world, will obviously dictate on how your license is, or, well, done really, I suppose you could call it. Well, not done, but how your licenses are categorised. In the UK, you have to do a couple of things to get your full license, depending on your age. If you're aged between 17 and 19, you have to do a CBT, and you can only do what's called an A2 license. From 21 to 24, there's an A1 license, and from that point onwards, it's your full license. I'll be honest, I've been running for 18 years, and I've actually forgotten what each category actually is and what it's for and how long you have that license for. I'll be honest, there's absolutely no point in me lying or trying to sugarcoat it, because I passed my license 18 years ago nearly. But back then, they had something called the direct access, or should I say direct access restricted license. So with regards to learner bikes, for example, that learner that I just passed back there, that bike, if I remember rightly, was a Honda CG or Honda CBF 125. I might be wrong, but if I am, forgive me. It is kind of early. As far as UK laws go, when you do your CBT, you can only ride anything from a 50 to a 125. And I'll be honest, when you're first learning, that's all you really need. And I know in some places, i.e. America, once you pass your test, you can pretty much jump on whatever you want. That's all well and good if you know what you're doing. Not so great if you're a little bit wet behind the ears, like a lot of the UK learners are, or should I say learners that I've encountered. Moving swiftly on, once you've done your test, CBT, A1, A2, full license, whatever, what bikes would I recommend for, you know, new riders? And there are quite a few on the market these days, ranging from 125s to 500s and so on. But what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and classify these in terms of each license. So for when you pass your CBT or your A2, whichever one's the one for the younger generation, I would recommend something like a Honda CG or a CBF 125, or even a Yamaha YBR 125. Something that's not going to scare you, something that's not going to give you a lot of, you know, issues like reliability wise and so on. If you're a little bit older and you know what you're doing, and you've done your CBT and you've had your license for a little while, ooh, bridge, I would suggest maybe a 300, 400, something like that. So like a Kawasaki Ninja 400, the Yamaha R3 is a good one as well. And literally anything with a low capacity but with a little bit more power will always be a good option. If you've got your full license and you're 24 and over, then obviously you can get pretty much whatever you want. However, I would not recommend jumping on something like this as your first bike. Reason being is because bikes like this are very powerful, especially this kind of age. Anything from say 2005 onwards to about 2013, anything like that, 9 times out of 10 will not have any traction control, wheelie control, slide control, ABS or anything like that. So you won't have the joy or the safety net of electronics. Trust me, I know. What I will say is that if you are sensible enough, then yes, you can ride something like this on a fresh license, shall we say. Personally speaking, I don't think you should. I think when you first pass your test, if you're 24 and over, don't go stupid and buy yourself like a fucking Fireblade or an R1 or a 1098 or a Panigale or anything like that, or even a BMW, because even though they have all the safety features in terms of electronics, they will still bite you in the arse and you will get hurt. And I mean, you will get seriously hurt. I read a story once of some lad in California, I think it was, literally passed his test. 2 weeks later he bought himself a R1. A month after that, quite literally wrapped the bike around a tree, ended up killing himself. I don't want to put people off getting a bike like that, because like I've already said, should you ride it sensibly, you will have no issue. Ride it like an absolute tool, then you will. And all it takes is literally just one lapse of concentration, one stupid decision, and that's it. It could all be over. Do you know what I mean? And like I keep saying, I don't want people to get put off getting a bike, because being on two wheels, in my opinion, is probably the closest thing to freedom that you can get. Obviously without, you know, living in the forest or going completely off grid. But like I said, each to their own. Personally speaking, like I've just said, if I was looking to give myself advice 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when I first started riding, I'll be honest, I think I would do it exactly what I did then all over again. I started on a 50cc Piaggio Typhoon 50cc moped. I then progressed onto a Aprilia RS125. I then progressed onto my first Ducati, which was a 748 by Posto, which unfortunately got destroyed in an accident. I then progressed from that to a Ducati 748E, which got stolen. Ironically, got returned to me about 4 years later, and admittedly in a worse state than when it left. Although, funny story, the bike that was also nicked and was, in inverted commas, cut and shot with, was a 748R. So that 748E became a 748ER. It had a 748E engine, forks, wheels, bodywork and everything else, but had a 748R frame. And thankfully, whoever owned the 748R frame never came forward to claim it. I personally think that the bike that the frame came from was owned by the person who stole my bike, to be honest. But like I said, conspiracy theories aside, that's what I think happened. From there, I had a Kawasaki ZX6R, sorry, ZX7R even, with the Fox headlights. If I can find a picture, I'll show you what they look like. And from that point, I didn't really get on with that bike. I had it for about 6 months, and then I part exchanged it for a 1998 or 99 Aprilia RSV Mille. And I'll be honest, I actually loved that bike. Wasn't the most reliable thing in the world, but likewise wasn't the worst. And people give Italian bikes a hard time for their reliability. I didn't really have any issues with any of my bikes until, unfortunately, especially on the RSV, the rear cylinder lost all compression and basically shit itself through the bottom of the tank. Other than that, that Aprilia was pretty much bulletproof. From that Aprilia RSV Mille, my 748 that was stolen was recovered, and I'll be honest, it was in a fucking sorry state. But thankfully, with the help from Scott down at S&S Motorcycles, and giving him my RSV as payment for the job, he managed to get the 748 back in one piece, got it re-registered with a new frame, got it sorted out with a DVLA, and got it back on the road, which was a massive woohoo for me. So I had the 748 after it was rebuilt for about 4 years, and then, due to all the fault in the world, which is my own, I didn't maintain her as well as I should have done, and the timing belt snapped in the rear cylinder. And as you can imagine, when that happens, there's not really much you can do. There's no turning back, there's no way around it. You can't really repair something like that. If I'm honest, I mean, you can try, but it never becomes, or it never returns to how you expect it. So in the end, I ended up selling my 748 to a work colleague, and I ended up getting my first 848, and that was an 848 Evo. I kind of like that quite a lot, to be fair. So I had the 848 Evo for about a year, 18 months. Then that got stolen from where I was living at the time. I then, with the proceeds of the insurance payout, bought myself an even rarer 848, which was the Evo Corsa SE. An amazing bike in its own right, amazing looking, amazing sounding. Came with a quick shifter, traction control. It was amazing, it really was. And that particular model, there was only 1,800 in the world. So it was quite a rare beast. However, someone, again, in the same area where I was living, took it upon themselves to relieve me of it. And once again, the proceeds from the insurance payout paid off the outstanding finance and got me this thing. And I know what people are going to say, oh, you've been lucky, blah 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 blah. And yeah, I have to a degree, but likewise, no, I haven't. Yes, okay, I've had this bike for 4 years now. It's completely mine. I don't owe anything on it. There's no finance or nothing outstanding except for this stupid fucking stalling, which it still seems to like to do, even though I've replaced the TPS, which is a fucking pain in the ass to say the least. Which leads me on to my next point. When it comes to getting your motorcycle license, one of the biggest killers for first-time riders is the insurance. And I'll give you a perfect example of how much insurance can cripple someone. When I first started riding, again, like I said, with my 50cc moped, because I was using it for work as well as personal use, my insurance every year was around the £1,200 mark. In dollars, I think that's closer to 1,800 maybe. Forgive me, I don't know what the current conversion rate is. But as I was saying, between $1,600 and $1,800. And it's all well and good if you've got the money, but when you're 17 years old, like I was at the time, I was lucky enough to have my work pay for it all, which I was really blessed for, because the people I was working with were really nice, until they decided to emigrate back to Australia. But anyway, that's another story. When I got my Aprilia RS125, ouch, the insurance again was about £1,200 to £1,500. And again, that's down to more the fact that of my age. So when I got the RS125, again, I was only about 17, 18 at the time, but after a year, if I kept my nose clean, the insurance dropped from £1,200 a year to about £800 a year. To which case I thought, ah, that's cool. And then when I got my first 748, it jumped up to £900. But I want to make it clear that the reason why it was that expensive, because at the time, the 748 still held a lot of value. To get a decent second-hand one with not too many miles, you were looking at, like I say, at the time, at around between £6,000 and £8,000. I do miss that bike, I really do. If you haven't seen it, there's a video that I did called The One That Got Away, and that is basically a little bit of a tribute video to that 748. Because like I keep saying, it was the one that got away, and I truly did love that bike to bits. It was the first bike that I learned to wheelie. It was the first bike I learned to do a burnout on. It was the first bike I learnt to do a stoppie on, the first bike I learnt to ride one-handed. Admittedly, you're not supposed to, but what can you do when you're young? But yeah, anyway, ladies and gents, that's kind of my advice for any new riders who's looking for a bike from when they first pass their test. You know, by all means, take it or leave it. You know, it is there for public opinion, and by all means, if you've got any questions or got any comments, please feel free to put it in the comments box down below. But for now, ladies and gents, you have been awesome. I have been Lee, aka Rollin Thunder. So for now, look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe on the roads, be careful with COVID-19, be safe, be happy, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, adios!